I stood outside her front door with my heart punching my ribs like it wanted out. My hands were shaking. My stomach turned with guilt and shame. I was about to tell a woman that I had been sleeping with her husband for almost a year. I had rehearsed the apology 100 times. I pictured her screaming, maybe slapping me, maybe crying. I deserved it. The door opened. There she was. Wendy.
Pretty. Calm.
Her eyes blinked at me with confusion. I said the words I had been choking on for months. I am sorry. I did not know Ruben was married to you. She stepped back. Married?
She asked.
To who? I blinked.
You.
You are his wife, right? She stared like I had just spoken another language. Then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A deep, confused one. We were never married, she said. I thought you were his cousin. My skin turned cold. My mouth dried. That was the moment I realized. I did not know who Ruben really was. Before I continue, I just want to say thank you for being here. To all of you who have subscribed to this channel, I appreciate you deeply. And to my new viewers and returning ones who have not yet subscribed, thank you too. I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that keeps this channel going. Please do not forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay till the end. You will not believe what we found in Ruben's apartment. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Elena. I am 33 years old, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I work in interior design. I am not proud of what I am about to tell you, but I promised myself I would never live in silence again. I met Ruben at a networking mixer for business owners. He was charming, smooth, and attentive in a way that made every other man in the room look dull. He was 38. He said he owned a security consulting company. I liked that he was mature, settled, and mysterious. A week after we met, he told me he was married. That should have ended it, but it did not. He said his marriage was over, just a piece of paper. He said they slept in different rooms. He said he would leave her soon. And then he said this, I need someone who sees me for who I really am. It was like he reached inside me. I had never been needed like that. So, I became the other woman. I hated myself for it. Every moment with him felt like stolen time, heavy with guilt. But he made me feel special, like I was his safe space. He would stay over sometimes. Other times he said he had to keep the peace at home. I never questioned it. I never pushed. Until one day I saw a photo on his phone. It was a selfie of him and a woman, smiling, holding hands, with the caption, "My world." I asked him about it. He said, "That is just Wendy. She is my wife on paper." That photo was from years ago, but I saw the date. It was just 2 weeks old. That was when the guilt hit me hard. I felt like I had become part of someone's pain. I decided to do something Ruben never expected. I tracked Wendy down. I found her workplace on social media. I waited outside during lunch break. And when she came out, I walked up to her, trembling, sweating, heart hammering. And what she said shattered everything. We were never married. Her voice was steady, but her eyes narrowed with suspicion. You said Ruben told you I was his wife?
She asked.
Yes, I replied. He said you were still living together. She looked away, exhaled sharply, then said, I have not seen Ruben in months. We broke up last year. He told me you were his cousin. I nearly choked. That was when I realized I was not the side chick. I had been placed in a role I never agreed to. But what came next was worse. Wendy pulled out her phone and showed me a picture. Is this him? I nodded. She stared at me and whispered, There is someone else you need to talk to. Wendy handed me her phone. On the screen was a woman with a short curly bob, caramel skin, and a bright red dress. Her name was Monica. She lives in Tucson, Wendy said. She thinks Ruben is a widower. I stood there, completely frozen. My brain could not process what I was hearing. He told you he was married to me. He told her his wife died. What did he tell you again? She asked. I swallowed hard. That you and he were still married, but sleeping in separate rooms. That he was going to leave soon. That I was the one who saw the real him. Wendy closed her eyes, slowly shaking her head. He said the exact same thing to me when we first met. My stomach twisted. My skin felt too tight.
Wendy was not angry at me.
She looked more exhausted. She told me she had broken up with Ruben last year after finding strange messages from multiple women on his old phone. He claimed they were clients, but her gut told her something was off. When I contacted Monica, the woman in the red dress, she answered with a sharp hello. I told her my name and that I was calling about Ruben. At first, she was quiet. Then she said, "Are you one of his cousins too?" That was it. That was the moment it hit all three of us. Ruben was a fraud. Not just a player. Not just a liar. A full-blown manipulator who had been building stories around each of us, planting false identities like weeds. Monica agreed to meet us in Phoenix. The three of us sat in a tiny coffee shop on a rainy Thursday like some broken survivors of the same emotional hurricane. We brought photos, text messages, timelines, trying to piece together just how deep Ruben's lies went. Monica had been dating him for almost 2 years. He told her he was still grieving his late wife, that he could not bring himself to take off his wedding band yet. He had shown her a fake obituary. He even cried. She believed every word. Meanwhile, he was sleeping at my place, telling me he was stuck in a loveless marriage. And just months before that, he was telling Wendy I was a cousin from out of town who needed a temporary place to stay. Everywhere we looked, there was another lie. He had no social media. His business website barely worked. The security firm he claimed to own? It was registered to a P.O. box with no listed employees. That was when Monica said something I will never forget. We should go to his apartment. Wendy and I hesitated. What if he is dangerous? I asked. Monica narrowed her eyes. Then I would rather know now than keep living like this. So we went. The three of us. 3 women, betrayed, furious, humiliated, now bound by a man who had turned us all into actors in his twisted play. We arrived at his apartment in Tempe. Monica had a spare key he once gave her. The building was quiet.
Too quiet.
She unlocked the door. The moment we stepped inside, the smell hit us. A mix of cologne, paper, and something chemical like glue or paint thinner. His living room was spotless, too spotless. Like a staged home, not one someone lived in. There were no framed photos. No clutter. Just cold, organized silence. We started looking around. It was Wendy who found it. A small door in the hallway closet that led to a crawl space. She pulled it open, and we all just stared. Inside were boxes. Not storage. Files.
Dozens of them.
Each labeled with a different woman's name. Inside, photos.
Receipts.
Letters.
Wigs.
Fake IDs. Copies of driver's licenses.
Passports.
Journals. He had created entire identities. Faked relationships. Worn disguises. We were not his lovers. We were his projects. None of us spoke for nearly 5 minutes. We just stared at the boxes like they were bombs, waiting to go off. The crawl space in Ruben's hallway felt like a shrine to deception. My throat burned. Monica's hands were shaking. Wendy looked ready to scream. Each file folder was thick with memories that were never real. One woman's name kept showing up more than once. Leah. We did not recognize her. Then Wendy found an envelope, unsealed, thick with folded documents. She pulled out photos. A woman with dark hair. A baby. Ruben again, smiling like a proud father. He told me he never wanted children, I whispered. Monica's face went pale. He told me his son died in a car crash. We sat down in the middle of his hallway, surrounded by papers, pictures, identities. It felt like we were drowning in him, drowning in a man who never existed the way we thought he did. It became too much. We called the police. At first, they were not interested. No crime had technically been committed. But then Monica found a second ID for Ruben, a different last name. And Wendy, sharp as always, pointed out the social security numbers on some of the copied documents looked suspicious. The officer who arrived asked us to step outside. He walked through the apartment and came back 10 minutes later, his face tight. None of the bills in this unit are under the name Ruben, he said. That is when it all unraveled. A full investigation began. Ruben, or Randall Bishop, his real name, had been wanted in Nevada for identity fraud. Years ago, he ran a fake consulting agency and vanished after scamming multiple clients. He had been using women as covers, inventing stories, rotating identities, even living under different names with different girlfriends across state lines. He was a con artist. Not just emotionally, but financially too. Wendy found out he had borrowed $5,000 from her to invest in new tech. Monica discovered he had used her credit card for hotel bills she never stayed in. I gave him access to my client list, trusted him with my professional reputation. We were not just heartbroken.
We had been used,
Stolen from, lied to. That pain. It was not romantic betrayal. It was a complete breakdown of identity. I started therapy. I needed to. I had to understand how I could fall for a man like Ruben. How I ignored the red flags. How I let love blind me into silence. Wendy and Monica and we kept in touch. We formed a strange bond. We were not friends at first, just survivors of the same emotional war.
but over time, that changed.
We held each other accountable. We reminded each other to stop apologizing for being fooled by a predator who wore the mask of charm. 6 months later, Ruben, or Randall, was arrested in Colorado. He had been living with another woman under another name. When police searched that apartment, they found more folders, more names, more victims.
Some of them had children.
Some of them had no idea he was not who he claimed to be. One woman believed she was engaged to him. Another thought he was in the military and on deployment. As more reports came in, it became clear Ruben never loved any of us. He loved control. He loved the game. And he got off on how well he played it. I wanted revenge. I wanted justice.
But more than anything,
I wanted myself back. I no longer define myself by what Ruben did to me. I define myself by what I did after. I chose healing. I chose truth. And I chose to tell my story, so no one else has to carry this kind of pain alone. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been lied to in a way that changed how you saw someone forever? Do you think Ruben was sick? Or just evil? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and if you have not yet subscribed, please do so now. Your support is what powers this channel and keeps stories like these coming.
until next time.
Stay sharp, stay safe, and never ignore your gut.